Welcome back to another edition of Chasing Tone podcast with Max and Brian.
Boom.
Yeah.
Shred shed.
The shred shed. Today, it's the sweat shed.
Yeah, I'm freaking roasted.
It's about 95 degrees in here without air conditioning.
At least 500 degrees.
Yes, and I'm sweating. I'm hot and sweaty.
Try being 6'3", 300 pounds in a black t-shirt and jeans.
By the way, you got some big biceps.
Yeah, I know.
On.
Thank you. I was disappointed because, listen, we changed the format. I've been working out a month. I've been losing weight. Been pumping my guns up. No comments. I trusted you,
At least
Tony
you brought
Bill.
your guns to the gun show.
That's true. Bam. Anyways, now we can continue on with the show after we got over my modesty.
You're so humble about it. It's great. So, yeah. So, we got some cool stuff today. The Catapult pedal just released last week, actually. And we're going to do, had a couple questions from people, and so we're going to do some stereo-ish stuff. Some tests with running stereo setups.
Eddie Heinzelman wants to know about slaving amps, signal routing, setup using multiple amps, in and out of phase, wet, dry, etc.
So, the setup I'm using is prototype with a DB Plus, going into a Sonic Research tuner, turbo tuner, into the Catapult, into the Hall of Fame, and then from the Hall of Fame, I'm still mono there, I'm going into the Arion stereo chorus, which has a little switch here that you can actually flip the phase of, I believe it's channel number 2. Just flips the phase of one of the channels. So if I'm clean, this is the sound. And by flipping the phase of that channel, just that one channel, 2 different amps, then here's what it sounds like. So, what you'll notice here, actually in the room, you can hear a small difference.
Yeah, a little difference.
It's not a gigantic difference yet. Let's do it with dirt, and I'm going to kick a little bit of reverb on too, just because that's pretty dry.
But you hate reverb.
I like plate reverb. I have it on the plate setting, which is awesome.
None of those sprays.
I'm not a fan of a ton of spring stuff. So, all right, let's turn the Catapult on. Again, Egnator Tweaker, Port City Pearl, and right now they are both. As far as the signal here, the signal's all the same phase. Now, keep in mind it also depends on the amp you're using. So, if you're using 2 totally different types of amps, if you're not using something that's going to change phase on one of the channels, then you can be out of phase just from the get-go. So a pedal like this actually helps a bunch, or using a JFET style booster helps a bunch as well. I'll show you that in just a minute. So with the overdrive, right now in phase, here's what we sound like. So let's flip the phase on that amp, that Egnator amp. Okay, now you heard it like when we're coming out mono from the speakers.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's it sounds totally different when you're listening to it mono, right?
It does, yeah, completely different.
Right.
It's amazing.
If you're in the room, you're hearing reflections off of walls and stuff, so you can't always tell if it's out of phase if you're in the room playing with 2 amps. But if you're playing at a club or you're playing at church or something like that, you'll hear it in the mains for sure. You'll absolutely hear it. So unless you're running like a stereo setup, then like the left side of the room is probably, if your guitar signal is actually stereo, which doesn't usually happen very often. Most clubs are mono. So, but if you are stereo, then it's a little different scenario. But for the most part, it's just a huge difference. So doing something like this is a gigantic help. And The best way I found to really check it out is just run it into, a mixer of some sort and record it and see which way you like it best. In fact, sometimes even whenever you do have that phase canceling, sometimes it makes a pretty cool sound, even though it's not what you hear in the room.
Yeah.
It still can make a pretty cool sound, and you can simulate. Moving mics and stuff is a bit of the same deal, where you're changing from the sound reaching the microphone is a different time, and so it creates phasing effects, or some people call it problems, but it really does. It's almost like EQing the signal by where you're putting the mics.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can do a ton of stuff with that. So, of course, I'm using this inexpensive Arion pedal just because it has that switch on it. Let me pull that out. I'm going to run 1 amp directly from the Hall of Fame, and I'll put a JFET booster in there and show you that when you click that, when you engage a JFET circuit, it'll flip the phase as well. A JFET style gain stage will flip the phase just like a 12AX7 will.
Well, that's cool.
So let's check that out real quick. Okay, so what I've done is I've used our old Talent booster, which is a JFET style boost, just to, I've set it at unity, so it's not boosting any volume. When you turn it on, it's going to flip the phase. It's going to, and just to kind of help people understand what's going on here, let me leave one of the amps unplugged.
Sure.
And I'll turn the distortion on, turn the pedal on and off. You'll see that there's no change really. A small change, but not a huge change. So not a gigantic change, right?
Sure.
Okay. Ooh, let's move that pedal board. Probably out of the shot. Okay, now I have that other amp hooked back up, so now I'm running in stereo again. Let me first turn it off, then I'll turn it back on. So you can hear it in the room still.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not as dramatic as it is on the recording, but you can still hear there's something that shifts in the room. You know what I mean?
So any JFET style pedal will do that. So the phase like that.
And let's say it's a pedal that has 2 JFETs inside of it. So,
really?
So we're talking just strictly circuitry stuff. So signal goes through one JFET and then comes out and goes through another one. In that situation, then you actually flip it back in phase.
Okay.
So
just
it's
need one.
Yeah. So every JFET style stage will flip it out of phase. Will flip the signal out of phase. It's just,
Gotcha.
It's just what they do. And some and even in some distortion pedals, there's certain types of gain stages that flip it out of phase as well. It's not a bad thing. It's just what they do. So there's different. It changes the sound in ways, and it changes the feel and reaction in ways. It can be cool or it can suck really bad, you know? So
that's cool.
Yep.
I never knew that.
So that's the thing about running, about running stereo. You got one distortion hitting 2 different amps, then, that's just what you're playing with. If you just have to experiment to make sure that you're getting the sound you want. So, okay, with that said, let's do another little trick. And, I think one of the guys had asked about using a blending setup. So meaning 1 amp dirty, 1 amp clean, which is kind of like with the Sparkle Drive from Voodoo Labs, or even the Hotwired. The right side has a clean blend as well. Yeah, that you can. It's kind of like simulating having a dirty and a clean amp. You know what I mean? So cool. So that's what we'll do. We'll go into the Hall of Fame since that's stereo out, and then we'll just use a distortion on one of the channels.
Very cool.
Okay, so just to clarify here, what we have right now is 2 clean amps. Going into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to leave it off so I don't reverb my distortion. I don't like reverb in front of a distortion. So I have one of the outputs going to an amp, the other output going to the distortion, and then to the amp. So with it clean and dirty, here's what we have.
cool.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a fat sound still.
Yeah.
It feels a little differently because obviously distortion and picking and all that stuff, it kind of reacts differently. So it's a cool thing. It's actually really cool with just a little bit of dirt as well.
The best of both worlds.
You know, the interesting thing, I didn't check to see whether those two amps are in phase with each other or not.
Let's say they're not.
So let's say they're not. We'll throw the chorus pedal on there real quick and change the phase and see what that does.
Boom.
Okay, so now what we have going on here is the guitar into the buffer, into the tuner, into the Hall of Fame, which then splits into two channels. That's two channels.
It's like stewardesses. This way, or this way. Or flight attendants. Sorry, not stewardesses. Flight attendants. It's like on Tommy Boy.
Exactly what I was thinking. You need the people that guide airplanes.
The runway.
The runway sticks. Yeah, exactly what
There's a reason they don't let me do that. It's costing too much money in broken airplanes.
You'd scratch your nose. Airplane.
Start juggling.
Okay, so
anyways,
back to guitar stuff. All right, so the Hall of Fame, I then split off into two. One goes to an amp, one goes to the catapult, which then goes to a chorus. I have that on a channel that I can flip the phase of. So, without any change of, not changing the phase at all, because like I said, I don't know the circuitry of those amps. So, I just don't know. So anyways, with that said, I'll kick the distortion back on, and we'll mess with the phase switch. Oh, I was on the wrong pickup.
You're on the right pickup.
No,
the neck pickup.
I was in the middle, and I was like, something is wrong. It does not sound like a Telecaster.
I know, that sounds good.
Thanks. All right, so. So, do you hear it as much with the clean amp and a dirty amp?
A little, yeah. I mean, about the same. I noticed a little more difference. Yeah.
So, but not as much as like you do on the recording. Though.
Recording's like, holy cow, it's like night and day.
Right.
So.
Right. So, and all right. So that's a long-winded way to try to talk about. Flipping the phase. Or, I'm sorry, not flipping the phase, but running stereo amps, running a stereo amp setup. If you're just into like home recording type stuff and you're not playing out a bunch, there's different plugins you can use to just flip the phase on that channel and solve that problem right there. I don't know if there's probably some live consoles have the ability to flip the phase of that channel. I'm
sure.
Guessing. I don't play out as much as you and Travis did or.
I got a guy for that.
So, yeah, I mean, so Bob, you've ran sound before. You probably would know about that. I don't know. Probably, maybe, possibly, if I had to guess. So, all right. So, hopefully that answered your question.
Joe Hill asks, when using an OD for slight breakup and then stacking a more aggressive drive for a solo, which placement is better? And the difference in before and after?
All right, Joe, that's a very good question, man. What I've done, I've set up using a Maxon OD 808 overdrive, which is an 808.
It's good. It has my name in it. Mm-hmm. It sounds good.
They named it after you.
It's true.
I'm pretty sure.
Max on, max off. No, is it too bad?
You should send a cease and desist.
Listen, you know my permission. Anyways,
so what we have is buffer to tuner to the Maxon, to the catapult, to the Hall of Fame overdrive, because it has the plate setting, which that's my reverb of the day that I'm using, and running into a Port City Pearl. So with just the catapult on, here's what we got. Now, when I kick the overdrive on, you'll notice it compresses more, it gets tighter, crunchier, so to speak. We actually employed this method on the PlexiDrive Deluxe, using a 808 type of circuit as the boost beforehand for this very reason, because it does this. It adds gain, it compresses more, it gets tighter. It's very cool for like a lead setting. And it doesn't change the tone, because that last pedal, that last dirt pedal is really is what's going to affect the EQ the most. So same thing, both pedals on. Here we go. Let me turn the overdrive and the volume up just a little bit more, even though it's really not that much right now compared to...
Axons are kind of quieter pedals anyways.
Yeah. So there's not a ton of gain there, but stacking them together... It makes me want to do a lot of pick harmonics.
Boom. It's because it has a tube screamer in front of it. Anything sounds better with a tube screamer. I've been preaching this for years.
I know, and it makes you want to do Zakk Wylde pick harmonics.
I was actually playing my pedal board last night doing pick harmonics, and my wife's like, "Sounds like I'm going to the dentist." She's like, "I don't like it. Stop doing it." So then I just did it like for 5 more minutes until she unplugged my amp.
And that's how you slept on the couch last night.
That's true. No, that's not true.
So, do you want to play around with it?
Sure.
I'll tweak some controls, and you want to pick?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
You're probably gonna like. Can I play on that?
I gotta play like Brian Wilder. All hard and stuff. I break a string, I just change it.
Are you saying that I pick hard?
I'm saying you pick very hard. You're the hardest picker player I've ever met.
I do. I hit the strings like I'm mad at somebody.
I'm so mad at you right now. Play what I want.
Yeah. I found that when you can't make it sound right, just pick harder.
When in doubt, play harder.
Right. So anyway, yeah, go ahead and play, and I'll tweak on some controls. Now,
Won't bend it all the way up, just annoy the people with OCD.
so like stacking them that way, how do you as a player? How does it feel to you?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, especially on my personal pedal board, I always kind of use the mantra, lightest to heaviest. Mm-hmm. So especially if I'm stacking overdrives, I'll stack a light one, then set my next one's a little bit heavier, then my next one a little bit heavier if I have 3. If I just have 2, it's light and heavy. I like stacking a light overdrive like a tube screamer into something heavier or another tube screamer because it's the best pedal ever made.
Hey!
No, I'm joking. We actually
all know that Arion makes the best one.
No, but yeah, I always that's terrible. No, but I always stack a lighter overdrive into a heavier one. I just like pushing that heavier gain stage with something light in front of it. Just kind of pushes it over the cliff. So.
Yeah.
Not the guy that writes all that copy. Like, yes, it pushes over the cliff, makes it sound a little more chunky, woody.
Okay, so, all right, so that's with the gain fairly down. Here, let me turn the gain down even more, and we'll kick on the. so it really gives like a lot of life to those notes almost.
Some,
just
some
gives it this.
Yeah. Bite into it.
Yeah, so I love that sort of effect, especially for like lead stuff. So I'll switch the order here. So I'll put the catapult first, then the max on, and we'll see that it doesn't quite do the same thing.
Boom.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, max. So I've switched the pedals out to the catapult and then the max on OD.
You say so.
808. It's not my favorite way this way.
Me either.
But let's see what happens. First of all, let's give you a straight up catapult tone.
Straight up.
Okay, now I'll kick on the OD 808.
Boom.
So what you're actually noticing now is that 808 is what's influencing the basic EQ curve of your signal. So the catapult is now acting more like the booster, more like the gain booster. So, and we could set it up to do some more stuff. I mean, if you keep playing, you're like I said, the 808 being the last thing, that's really going to be the tone that you're going to get. By the way, I don't suggest using that pedal as a booster like that.
No.
It's not really made for that. But that's what'll happen. You can actually get it kind of fuzzy even by doing that. Here. So that's the basic difference. I mean, it's easier just showing you than really trying to talk about it. But it's just that last pedal is what is going to set the EQ of your tone. So if you want your tone to sound more like your distortion pedal, then put that one last. If you want it to sound more like the overdrive that you're using, then put that one last. So, and you use, like you said, you use two, right?
Yeah, I've used 2-tube screamers, and you don't get as much of that muddiness, the flubby kind of sound. It kind of balances everything out.
Right.
But yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Hope that answered your question. So, you got something cool to talk about.
Yeah, man. I got to get my notes out of my pocket.
Okay.
I wrote notes and everything.
Cool.
So check it out. So there's this group. There's a school in New Zealand, right? Their teacher,
There's
music
schools
teacher.
in New Zealand?
Schools in New Zealand. The guy wrote into it. He's a teacher. He teaches music there. His name is Rich Nielsen from the Allendale School. And I'm terrible with pronouncing names, but Rich wanted me to give a shout out to a couple of students. Rich is actually teaching students how to get better guitar tones, so they got hip to this show. And the cool thing is, I guess some of the boys in the school are starting to say the phrase "come on," like "come on."
Travis started it. He started an entire culture.
But Rich told me, like, I guess it spread to like other students in the school and some of the teaching staff. So there's this whole got a whole school in New Zealand saying "come on." So guys, I want to give a shout out. I'm terrible with pronouncing names. But
Roll your R's.
I can't. I can barely speak English. I'm serious. So guys, sorry if I screw up your names. I'll have Bob put them on the screen. Just be like, oh, that's who he was talking about. But Widamu and Te Akura. I can't roll R's. Yeah, I can't do that. But guys, thanks for tuning in. It means the world to us. It totally made my day.
That's cool.
A 20-second little backstory. It was kind of cool. When I was younger, I had a music teacher that actually spent some time in New Zealand. And he had this really cool bone Maori, I think I'm pronouncing it right, necklace. And from then on, I've been a huge fan of New Zealand. So it's cool that you guys are, at least a small part of New Zealand, is a fan of us. So awesome. Thanks for making my day, guys.
That's really cool, man. Appreciate you guys watching. So if you have any questions about this podcast or any other podcast, if you have any questions in general that you want us to talk about, shoot us an email, podcast@wamplerpedals.com. You can also comment below in our videos. We watch that. Make sure you check out our tone group on Facebook. Just about every time we shoot a video, we always put in the tone group. Got any questions? And in fact, that's today where today's questions came from.
Yeah.
Just from the Facebook page there.
Guys
So
like you.
yeah, so check us out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to it. Tell your friends. Have your mom watch it. Have your mom's friends watch it.
Don't have my mom watch it. Mom, I don't condone this.
All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.